What's going on, fight fans? This is Capital of Combat. The name says it all. I'm Rob Jarrell, and this is the recap to this past weekend Showtime pay-per-view featuring the Charlo brothers. We had Jermall Charlo taking on Sergey Derevyanchenko in defense of his WBC middleweight title. Then we had Jermell Charlo unifying against Jason Rosario out of the Dominican Republic for the WBC, IBF, and I think the WBO. Could be the WBA. Yeah. Junior middleweight titles that Rosario won off of Julian Williams, and of course Charlo defended his WBC. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with the middleweight matchup featuring Jermall Charlo. Now, again, this was an interesting fight for Jermall. This is probably his biggest step up in competition to date. Sergey Derevyanchenko doesn't have a whole lot of official professional fights, but he does have an extensive amateur background and of course participating in the World Series of Boxing, which is kind of depends on if you want to consider it amateur, if you want to consider it professional. That's neither here nor there. He's a very good middleweight. His biggest step up in fights against Danny Jacobs and Gennady Golovkin did not end in a win for him, and unfortunately this didn't either. He was able to take Charlo all 12 rounds and present a very good challenge for Charlo to try his best to get that WBC belt. Charlo looked good from the outset. He really set the tone by establishing distance, moving around the ring, and really utilizing the hook and the uppercut to the Derevyanchenko. He jabbed well. He hit him with rights over the top. And when the Derevyanchenko got a little too close, had his guard open, he slipped the uppercut quite a few times. And you really see it on the face. That piston-like jab marked up the Derevyanchenko. The right hand did the job, opening the mouth on his left eye. So over the course of the rounds, he landed some hellacious punches, but as the Derevyanchenko started to get going as the rounds wore on, you could see him using his footwork and using that jab, getting on the inside and really letting his hands go. He made it very difficult from rounds 7 to 12 for Charlo to maintain his pace and his level of activity. But he did land the harder, showier punches, while Derevyanchenko really had to work to get everything he did on the inside. Granted, Charlo piled up a lot of punches in the first half of the fight, giving him most of those rounds. There were a lot of times where he shook Derevyanchenko, but I don't think he had him super hurt throughout this fight. But that uppercut was there. You could see it snap the head of Derevyanchenko, and he did a good job throwing those feints. But Derevyanchenko shooting that jab, coming over the top with the right. He probably could have did himself a few more favors by cutting off the ring, but unfortunately that's not his game. He wants to get inside, he wants to work, he wants to try to pile up as many points as possible and try to wear his opponent down. But Charlo at this point, he took the win, and just depends on where we go from here. The middleweight division, again, I think is pretty decent, but are the champions fighting each other? I mean, at this point, he can fight Triple G, Canelo, and Demetrius Andrade, but are they going to take these fights? Chris Eubank Jr. is also there, and Ryota Murata is also there as well. But I think Chris Eubank Jr. would be, I think he's kind of moving between super middleweight and middleweight. It's kind of difficult to call it with his whole promotional situation, and Murata is clearly under top rank. And I can't really see him having too many, it being a thing for him to fight Murata. I would have to look up to see who else would be available. But he's looking for the big money fights because he has been proving himself. Oh, and of course he can always fight Danny Jacobs, who is under the PVC banner. No, I take that back. He's under the zone. The middleweight division is really weird. I'm going to be honest, especially on the promotional front. But let's move on to the junior middleweight matchup featuring the shorter Charlo, Jamel Charlo, taking on the hard-hitting Dominican Jason Rosario. And from the outset, Charlo showed that he will not be punked. He's a harder, more explosive puncher, knocking Jason Rosario down with the left hook. Earlier in the fight, he knocked him down again, I think in the fourth or fifth round, with the same hook as Rosario was jabbing. And because he doesn't have a very good jab, he drops his defending glove or defending hand, his guard, when he throws that jab. All Charlo had to do was step, let that hook go, and it really shook up Rosario both times. Charlo is such an aggressive puncher. Now, granted, he wasn't coming forward aggressively. He did a very good job at moving backwards and laterally, not being a stationary target for Rosario. Rosario didn't really have the inability to jab or the straight punchings, say, a Tony Harrison had, to really get into that space. As he was walking Charlo down, he really didn't throw the necessary punches to work his way inside. The footwork, the pressure did push Charlo back, but he did a really good job throwing very stiff, hard jabs, following up with the right hands, and moving and not getting trapped. And the times that he did, if he felt like he was too much in a firefight, or he might have got shaken up a little bit by Rosario, he would tie him up. Now, Rosario, again, I told you, look out for, in the preview, those low blows, because he does like to throw a left to the body, but they always stray fairly low. And I think they were on the verge of taking a point. I know they had to stop the fight for about a minute or so Charlo could get his bearings about him, but that's something that's always going to plague Rosario. And personally, I think he does it on purpose because he has a habit of doing it. But he was never really able to create any sustained offense. And there were times where Charlo really would overcommit to his punches, but Rosario would never make him pay. And when he wasn't punching, where he was just going backwards trying to stay out of range of Rosario, he never really worked his way in. And those jabs, like I said, aren't the greatest jabs in the world, was able to be parried and knocked down by Charlo, so there were nothing of consequence that he could follow up with a right hand or move and shoot a left hook to the body. And then the wildest thing happened when he came out in the last round. I think it was the sixth round. Let me double check and make sure, because I watched the fight so much, I get caught up in it. I just finished watching it a third time. I had to watch it a couple times just to figure out what happened. So give me one moment. I always have my computer. You probably hear it. I'm sorry, it was the eighth round. He came in, he threw a double jab, one up top, which Rosario blocked. Then he shot it again downstairs, which was partially blocked by Rosario, but the way it was blocked, it's almost like it never lost momentum, and it strayed down right to the belt line into the diaphragm of Rosario. Now, I'm not sure what happened. I know it was a very hard jab, and I've never really seen too many people get knocked out or taken down with a jab to the body. I think the only person I've seen knock someone down and knock someone out with that punch is Sergey Kovalev. And we know he jabs like a freaking horse, with the power of a horse. And this was the same thing, because you could hear the power on that punch. Again, Rosario blocked it and kind of knocked it down, but it kept going with no lack of momentum. Sorry, that's my phone. But no lack of momentum. And I don't know if he caught him between breaths as he was trying to breathe out, or I'm sorry, try to breathe in, and he caught him like halfway or mid-breath or whatever. But whatever he did, he hit him so hard, Rosario instantly went down and was sucking air hard. I mean, he was trying to catch his breath as best he could, and everyone was confused and amazed and concerned because they had never seen something like that. It's one thing to get hit with a power jab and it just knocks the wind out of you, but to get with that jab, it was like we didn't see anything like that coming. So again, my theory is when he hit him, he must have hit him mid-breath or as he was trying to breathe in, and what little air he got in his diaphragm just got pushed right back out, and it created chaos in his whole breathing system, and that was it. His cardiovascular system was just, they had no more, and it shocked his body, and that was it. So at this point, where does Charlo go from here? He's pretty much number one in his division. He's beaten just about everybody you can think of. He could fight Williams again. I think the mandatory for him is Erickson Lubin, who just beat Terrell Gausha a week prior. He could also fight, and I don't think he's going to take this fight, but he could also always fight Jared Hurd. I just don't think that fight's there right now. And there's Munguia, but I think Munguia is pretty much moving up to the middleweight division. Let me, give me a second, I could tell you. Yeah, Jaime Munguia is now at, middleweight. It looks like he's plying his trade at middleweight. Yeah, he's at middleweight. I guess he beat Gary O'Sullivan, and he's about to take on Terreno Johnson at middleweight. So, again, middleweight's going to be interesting. There's always guys moving up or even moving down into that division. So, that's all I got for you today. Tell us what you think. How did the Charlo brothers look? Who do you think they should fight next? Where does Derevchenko and Rosario go from here? These are two of the glamour divisions, and the junior middleweight division is probably the best, most competitive, and deepest division. Probably up there with 175 and welterweight, and lightweight right now, if I'm not mistaken, at 135. So what do you guys think? Comment down below. Hit us up. Be respectful to us and each other. Hit us up at capitalcombat@gmail.com, Capital Combat at Instagram, Facebook. Let us know what you think. Like this video. Share with your friends. And until next time, fight on.
This is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire.